So Pete, I just got off the phone with Deborah Nash. Actually, it was last night.
Just got off last night.
Just got off last night. When's the last time you got off? No, I'm kidding. Anyways,
God, here we go.
Oh no, we'll edit that
People,
part out.
we just lost.
We'll
lost half
edit
the
that
serious
out.
people.
No, so anyway, I was speaking with her last night, and she said to me, which is I thought was a profound compliment. She's like, Craig, every bulletproof person, every bulletproof doctor that I taught you that's in your mastermind, like every bulletproof person is like amazingly successful. And she started dropping names like Eric and Chris, and she was at Chris Alper's place in Arizona, last week. And she's like, whatever you guys are doing, I'm a huge fan, and I'm going to send my people to you. And she talked about this guy that she's working with. She says he's got a heart of gold, and he's booked out. And he's a client of another consultant who's trying to teach him how to just do more dentistry. And he's actually hired Deborah because, there's no one better than Deborah at teaching your team verbiage. I know you've hired
100%.
her. I've hired her. She's amazing at what she does. She will help your team enroll the crap out of your patients. But what does that really wind up doing? It takes a dentist who has got their hair on fire working, 40 hours a week, 32 hours a week clinically and doing tons and tons of dentistry. You hire Deborah, your team gets aligned, and now you're doing even more dentistry, and you deepen the cycle of clinical busyness. And I want to say that, dentistry is beautiful. It's like a snowflake.
Well, isn't that the goal, Craig?
Well, yeah, it is to some people. You talk to, and she was telling me the same thing to me last night. She said, "Listen, Ross Nash loves dentistry."
Her husband.
Her husband, he ran the Nash Institute, and he loves dentistry, and
he's the OG, man. I'm telling you, in cosmetics, he was like I watched him on Dental Town when I was in dental school, like just doing cases, and he's the OG. So anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so he's the OG. He never wants to leave clinical. And there's a parallel with my dad, too. I was out to dinner with my dad a couple of weeks ago. My dad's like, I really miss the dentistry, Craig. I just really miss delivering care. I really miss the crown preps. And I think that's beautiful. And
wait, is your dad retired?
Well, I mean, he comes in and does exams. He doesn't do clinical dentistry.
Oh, I thought he was still doing clinical.
No, he he does exams and clinical. He's at the chair. He just doesn't, And I said, Dad, you should do a little bit of it. He's like, well, I've been out of it for 3 years, and I'm worried. I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm just kind of out of practice type of thing. And I do, to some extent, I do believe that it's not like riding a bicycle. You have to keep your clinical skills sharp. So anyway, if you're that dentist that's listening and you say, I love dentistry, I think that's, you're so fortunate because you picked a career that you can do your clinical and you can have a great life and you can work 3 or 4 days a week and make a really good living. And that's wonderful. But I think if you're listening to this podcast, more chance than not, you're actually thinking, I'd love to be a dental business owner. And we talk about this all the time, but for those tuning into the podcast for the very first time, that means that you actually make money without picking up a handpiece. It means your practice can perform and make money without you working in it. So there's a hybridization of those models. You can be a true dental business owner like maybe Peter or myself who don't pick up handpieces really at all. Or you can have this hybrid model where your practice makes a certain amount of money. It's in the black every month without you doing work. And you love dentistry and you want to work a day or 2 or 3 or 4 a week. And all that's gravy, meaning it's all accretive to your bottom line. You make a lot more money. But I think the problem is that there's a lot of shame, and we've talked about this before, that when you decide to no longer practice dentistry, when you decide you want to exit the chair, there's a lot of guilt around this. And when I ask dentists that I work with, it's often that I have to ask him 3 or 4 times, like, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it, what does your career look like? And I have to say that like 3 separate times. And finally, it's like, I would leave the chair. I would actually want to leave the chair if I could. And there's so much shame around that. And Deborah was talking to me about some guy that she loves, and that's really what he wants. He wants to leave the chair. But if you look at his last 2 years, he was consulting with a consultant, and this consultant never really understood what he wanted to create. So what did he wind up doing for the last 3 years? He dropped all insurances. He went fee for service. He took a lot of high-end clinical courses. So that means his hourly wage now, because now he's an apex dentist, he doesn't take insurances, and his fees went up by 30, 40% or 50%. He works with Deborah Nash, so now his team is enrolling the shit out of dentistry. So all he's done is deepen his path of a career of clinical dentistry. If someone had worked with him and said, what do you really want? He says, I want to be a dental business owner. He may have decided, I'm not going to go off insurance. I'm going to hire 2 extra doctors. They're going to go on insurance. Those patients will see him, and people can elect to see me if they want to out of network. Because Peter, let's face it, a dental business owner, Sulman Ahmed of DECA does not care that his crown fee is lower than Ross Nash's, because Ross Nash does, 5 crowns per hour, 10 crowns per hour. DECA's doing 5,000 crowns per hour.
Right.
Like, Henry Ford once said a very famous quote. He said, quantity has a quality all of its own. So do you want to make 1 car per hour, or do you want to make 400 cars per hour? And I just think it's this one size fits all consulting that's going on that points to a very bleak future for dentists, because we don't bother to understand what people really want. And I think it's the hardest step, and I always talk about it. And, I'm sorry for
that's
those
why we spend so much time unpacking it, I think, in the inception of Bulletproof, because you get people at all the same levels. I want this. And then you kind of break them down, and you're like, well, is that really and authentically what you want?
And that's, sorry,
you pressure test them, right? Like, that's what I love about it. Like, meaning you and I used to do a strategy where, like, you would kind of take some masterminders, and I would, people tell me what they want. And I'm like, okay, here's the 6 steps to get there, kind of thing. Right. And I would be off and running on an inauthentic vision. And then you'd break it down and be like, dude, that's not what they want. And they told you they wanted, but they don't want that.
Right. And you don't know what you want if you don't see it. So you have to see an example. So I'll pick apart like your trajectory. You went to dental school. They told you you're not going to make more than X amount of dollars because that's what dentists make. And then you saw the AACD people, and they had style and they were cool. And you're like, damn, I'm going to be that guy.
Right.
But had you seen Rick Workman early, or Sulman, or this mass, if that would have been the first person you saw, you would have never gone to AACD. Not that I'm saying anything wrong with that, but I know you're an entrepreneur more than an artist. And
but you didn't know me in my artistic phase, like,
no, but there's an art to entrepreneurship. And I think that, had you been like a member of a network like a Bulletproof early on in your trajectory, I think your career, not that it's all perfect, it all works out just as it's supposed to. But if you're not exposed to it, if you're in a mastermind or a group, or you go to lunch or dinner with a bunch of dentists, and all these dentists are doing a same type of thing that you're doing, you're likely not to be exposed to something that might light you up. And if you've made a plan for yourself and you created a vision, and now you've been at that vision for 10 years, it's time to rethink it again.
Craig, what I see people doing is they just the example that you just discussed. It's, I'm so busy, and now I'm stepping on the gas, which is making me busier. And I'm creating, like you said, this, not a trap, but I'm creating like a virtuous, like a cycle that keeps me busier, stressed out more. Yes, I'm making more, I'm in demand more. So
it is a trap. How is that not a trap?
Well, okay, because I don't want to define, like, it just, that seems like it has a negative connotation. Maybe it does. But it's a blessing.
It's only negative if you love your trap, and you love, it's rails. Like, careers are like rails. You get hooked onto them, and it's hard to disengage from them. It was hard
in that scenario. You're right. God, there's so many. This is why I love dentistry, is that there's so many tributaries you could go down. So let's say that your dad was in this scenario, or Ross Nash. Let's use Ross. He was in a scenario where I'm so busy, right? And now I've created this quote unquote trap. So the way out of the trap is what for him? If he wants to continue doing dentistry, doesn't want to expand, what is his way out of the trap? Well, and let's say he's already fee for service.
Yeah. So I think for any of us, it's going to suck for a little bit. So,
do you talk about this ramen noodle? Do you agree that you should always create some opportunity in your schedule? Meaning you should continually raise your fees, right? So if you're too busy,
it just depends on what you do. So let's take Ross. We'll pick on Ross. Ross is an iconic dentist, right?
Right.
And he always loved dentistry. He knew he wanted to stay in dentistry. So yes, the trajectory for him is he has price elasticity. He has demand, and he can actually raise prices. What's winding up happening is there's other people that are not Ross that don't love clinical dentistry as much. So they're getting burnt out. They've done 15, 20 years. I mean, I remember the conversations you and I had in 2017 where it's like, dude, how do I get out of it? How do I
Yeah, that is the
disengage from this?
hardest. So where I was going with this is like you're super busy, then you get busier because you're good, right? And you're growing your team, and then you get busier and busier and busier. And so you see the binary like super busy, and then you hear people talk about, oh, get out of dentistry, and you're like, dude, the chasm is so freaking far. And I think that you got to break down these steps. I think it would behoove everyone to know, like, it's not this binary, I'm so busy and now I can stop dentistry if that's what I so decide to do. There's a multitude of steps along the way. And I think to your point, defining then what really works for you. Is it 2 days a week and then let some associates come in and you mentor? Or is it, I want a lifestyle practice? Or is it, I want to raise my fees and become specialized? Like whatever it is, you just need to sit with yourself and figure it out.
Yeah.
And if it's completely getting out of dentistry, I have to tell you, Craig, let me just spend 30 seconds here. That was probably psychologically the hardest jump of all of them I did, right? Between like growing, because everyone around me, parents, wife, friends,
Partners.
What do you mean you're like you're a dentist? What do you mean you're stopping dentistry? Right. And they had the context of my life even. And so there was a lot of shame in that for me saying, hey, I wanted to stop. And, and I kind of commingled it with, well, I've got 2 buildings going on right now. I just don't have the time. I really need to kind of step back for a second. And in my heart of hearts, I knew like, if I step back, I'm not coming back kind of thing. Yeah. But I had to like commingle it with an excuse as opposed to being like, look, it's my life.
Yeah, but also I just want to stretch the definition of, unfortunately, the dentists, we're our own worst critics. When you stop doing dentistry, you don't work anymore. And I remember I had a somewhat viral video of like our clinic, like it was Nate, walking around our clinic, and it got like, I don't know, 50, 100,000 views. And a lot of dentists were saying, I just don't understand why this guy became a dentist if he wanted to do that. But the sheer fact is, in the state of Florida and the state of Georgia, you can't do what I did without becoming a dentist. So I became what I thought was proficient in clinical skills. I did 20-something years of dentistry. Full career. And then I still use dentistry. I still talk to my team comes up to me, my associates, my partners. Hey, what would you do here? And I couldn't lead them if I didn't know how to do that. If I was just some, guy who started Subway and I came in here, I'm like, yeah, just do whatever, like do a filling. You'd lose your credibility.
So I think that's where you got power over those people who, like, I know guys, literally I'm thinking of 3 guys right now who went to dental school only to check the box of ownership. Meaning like they just wanted to get in because they were businessmen at the beginning of they weren't really dentists. And so they wanted to check the box of ownership, being able to own practices by having a license. And I think that, obviously their dentists are not coming to them saying like, hey, what would you do in this complex scenario? Right. And so it uniquely qualifies you. I think you get respect from a clinical standpoint as well as a respect from an entrepreneurial position.
Yeah.
So.
But we make it hard. We make it hard on each other, on our profession, by saying the things we say. And I just want to, maybe I'm just speaking to somebody. It's reminding me because of what Deborah was telling me last night. And when I said, I think there's shame, she's like, damn it, you're right. This guy needs Bulletproof. And she like literally dropped a group text for me and this guy, because he hasn't been allowed to say what he really wants.
Where do you think that comes from? Like, because I had it, like, and maybe I haven't even dealt with it in my own.
Well, let me tell you what it is, Pete. So like when you work at, so the career of dentist is it's not just your job, it's your identity. So when you're at a party,
you're an elevator. What do you do? I'm a dentist.
Yeah. Oh, and then that's what you are. It's not just what you do, it's what you are. That's Pete the dentist. That's Craig the dentist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that people don't allow you to express yourself in other ways. And dentistry is, multi-billion-dollar industry, and there's all faces of it. Like if you sell composite and you work in R&D for Sprint Ray or whatever, you're in dentistry. And we are still in dentistry. We just don't practice it. And I think that we just need to open up the aperture for people that are listening to this to say, it's okay if you just went to dental school and you're 4 years out and you're just realizing now, shit, this is not the career for me. It's okay. There's massive opportunity, and it's up to you to get in the right group.
Is it okay? Let's just say
100%, buddy.
Okay, but
100%.
let's just, okay. I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah.
You're 4 years out.
4 years out. $400,000 in debt.
$400,000 in debt.
Yep.
You're coasting along mediocre. You're not an outlier. You're not in demand. Let's just say you're a basic. You're a regular dentist.
Okay, so that means you're making about 160 grand a year. You're making about the average salary.
Yeah.
Yep.
So since I devoted my life to this craft, meaning in high school, I took stuff that would get me into a good college. I went more science in college. So, and then I went, I geared all my education towards this craft that I'm doing. Right. And now here I am straddled with debt. I went down a path that people told me to go down because it seems safe. Being a dentist seems safe.
Right.
And I'm now sitting in this situation of like, I don't love what I do, but now I have no choices. What are my choices to out of it, Craig, if you're saying
So I think that person, and I'm sure there's multiple people that think that way that are listening right now. I think that person that's 3 or 4 years out, that's like, damn, it's just not for me. I just don't love the clinical. My back hurts, blah, blah, blah. Patients don't, whatever it is that you didn't anticipate, that now you understand what the reality is, because 4 years is enough time to get the reality of it, what it really is. There's a massive opportunity. There's probably more opportunity for you, or not, I shouldn't say more, but just as much as your colleague that you talked to, that you went to school with, that's like, Johnny, I don't know why you hate it, dude. I am loving it. I would do this for free. There's just as much opportunity as the people that love it, but you have to get in the right group. You got to find dental business people. Don't hire a coach that grabs more, don't go to some occlusion course or Coist or Spear and say, okay, I'll just get better at dentistry. If you don't like it, maybe there is an outlier group that you don't like it because you're not trained enough, but there is I just want to allow the space for someone to say, I really just know in my heart, I made a mistake. I don't like it. That person has massive
I think you're right. I think a lot of people, when they get to that phase, they think, well, maybe it's just what I'm doing in dentistry.
Or no, it's the area. It's my location. So let me open up a second location now. So I'm in, Pea Shooterville. Let me go to the city and open up a second location, because the people over there are probably much nicer.
In the city?
Yeah, I don't know.
No chance.
I don't know, but maybe I'll go to the city, or I'll go to a more affluent area, and it'll be easier.
Yeah.
So they dick around. Now they have 2 locations, and now they're like, freaking like, should I just off myself? And that's the reality too.
Yeah. Let's not. I don't want to go into this like. All right.
Well, I'm just saying, like, this is unfortunately a scenario that exists.
I know. So let's wait. Hold on. But I also want to point something out. So I think because I think I was probably a little victim of this. Believe it or not, I went through an implant residency, Craig. Because I didn't know that. Yeah, I got bored. And I was like, well, maybe this is what I need is to increase my skill set. Ultimately, I never placed one. I got to the end. I was like, what am I doing? This is so inauthentic. Even I picked it up on myself. I was like, I don't want to do this shit. But I thought, so here I am going back to this person. Let's go back to this avatar of this $400,000 person, 4 years out. So you
actually did do what we were just describing. I'm not enjoying clinical. Maybe if it's implants, I'd like it.
That's what I'm saying. Right. And so
you didn't allow yourself
let me try Invisalign. Let me try cosmetic. Let me try this. Maybe it's just what I'm doing. I don't enjoy crown and bridge on 18 to 20, in the posterior quadrants kind of stuff.
Right. Because you didn't know what was possible. No one ever had this. Had you listened to this podcast, you'd be like, wait, what are they talking about? I can still use all my career, but not have to practice. Is that possible?
Yeah, but I don't want to glamorize. I don't like it when we, I feel like sometimes we glamorize, like I hate that narrative, like get out of the chair, like that shit. What's that group? Like get out of the chair, get off a runway. I don't think that's the narrative to push, but I think our narrative is just figure out what you love and expand that. But you got to spend time figuring out what you love, because dentistry can do whatever you want. It can be your dad. It can be the Ross Nash route where you're just continually crafting and getting more in demand, or if you want to do the entrepreneurial route. Like we are probably on the extreme of that, right? So
or somewhere in between where you love
somewhere in between.
That's what you do is okay. It's palatable. You can do it. You can do it 3 days a week. You can make $250 a year and you're happy. That's cool too. That's really cool. You know, that's cool as well. But I think that this idea, people stay stuck because they have shame around it.
There's so much. Yeah. And I think that's what our narrative we should be. There's so much hope in whatever you decide to do, but you just got to get in the right group that supports that. And this is not a push from Masterminder, because honestly, like Deborah said, you get in Mastermind to throw gas on your ecosystem, right? Right. You know, you're not getting it to throw gas on problem. You get in a group that supports you and wants to support whatever that looks like for you. Right. If it's
right. But there's a period of time where you're not clear about what it is. And in your heart of hearts, if you were honest with yourself, you would actually say, I want to leave the chair. I want to get out of clinical, but you're ashamed to say it. So you just make yourself busier. And then but
also, Craig, you can also conflate, I just want to get out of the chair, with burnout. And there are ways to insulate yourself from burnout. Like I got there, right? I was quote unquote burn out. And this was long before my cessation from dentistry, right? It was just doing too much. And I think there's an antidote for burnout. And sometimes we go in this very binary, I'm so busy, I'm burnt out, I want to stop. And all it really was doing was titrating down your days. Try to, like I just need to take 2 days a week and I'm going to infill with an associate and train, because that's not burdensome to me, right? And then sometimes people find this like Goldilocks days. Like we know some people in the mastermind, like Adriana, like she's found this perfect blend. She can still do dentistry. She still has time for business. She's growing the business. And it's this perfect Goldilocks blend of being clinical and being happy kind of thing. So I think that's what it is. Search for whatever the Goldilocks is of your life.
And I think there's one other layer to it as well. Like if you look back at our
was Goldilocks, was that the one that was the pudding or the porridge?
Yeah, porridge. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Porridge. I don't even know what porridge is, but anyway, that's a whole separate podcast.
Like cream of wheat.
So I don't even know what that is. Is that grits? Anyway, well, that's the second podcast. But I think the other part is in the beginning of a person's career, you want to be as well-rounded as possible. So you spend an inordinate amount of time trying to marginally improve your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And where you and I are at in our careers, we're like, what I'm not good at, we fully disclose. Mm-hmm. We can just say right off the bat at this point in a career, if this is what you need me to do, you don't want me to do it.
Yeah.
So we were trying to marginally improve our weaknesses and never stood in our strengths.
But on the come up, dude, I got to tell you, like I felt like I needed to have the answer for everything. So that is the tale.
I am more self-deprecating now. I'm more self-facing. I'll tell people right off the bat. I'll tell people like I basically have a learning disability in these areas. So please don't ask me to do that. I'll do this, but I can't do that.
That's true.
Yeah, it is true.
I'm just kidding, bud.
No, it is true. But I think that the overarching message that I'm trying to kind of drive home here is I think there's many people listening right now that are just afraid and ashamed to really state what they really want. And if
to somebody else, to another human,
right? And if to anybody, if
for themselves, even
to yourself, you might be doing it like at Summit. Remember we had that guy's like, I'm really just doing it for my dad. But if this is striking a chord, if this is bringing you some level of emotion or something like that, my call to you is to just disengage for a day and write out what you really want. Just do that. And I hope that some of you will actually take this moment to actually do that. Get a pen and paper and actually write it down. Just say what I love, what I hate, and do an inventory of your life, because the greatest thing you can do is build something that you love that you never want to leave. That is true happiness. And I just think that there's a lot of people that, and maybe it's the opposite. Maybe the person that's really good at dentistry and loves dentistry wound up opening 4 practices. And now they hate that life. Like I did the entrepreneur thing. It's kicking my ass. I really, really liked my days when I had 1 practice, 2 hygienists, and a part-time associate. That was my sweet spot. Go back to that.
I love where you're going with the inventory, because I think so much we get caught in the busyness of busy, and you look back at your day like, I don't know, it was such a blur. I was so busy, and that's like your virtue signal for some reason. But if you can take some time and like take out a notebook, put it on the side of your desk, inventory of your life. I just did that. I really like that. Okay, that goes in the pro column. I just did that. I freaking hated that. That goes in the con column, right? And so you're right. Amplify the pros, find a way to delegate the cons or get rid of them or never do them again, whether that's a clinical or business thing or whatever, and just keep auditing. I love that, honestly, because I've done that in many instances. Like what's really detracting from my, why am I in a bad mood? Why am I treating people poorly? Why? It's because sometimes the circumstances in my environment were making that. And I was frustrated and I didn't know how to express that frustration other than just grumpy. No one understands what I do,
Yeah. I mean, I felt, and listen, I bullshit myself for a long time. So you exited clinical, and I used to tell you all the time, like, I loved it because my clinical schedule being clear aligners only was pretty damn easy. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I had no time. So even though my procedures were easy and not a lot of thought, I was stacked 9 to 5, no time to pee. And I couldn't mentor docs. I couldn't be there for team members. I was grumpy because my time. So it just wound up changing. And I think that's important to know, that whatever you decide now, you're going to want to revisit that in 3 to 5 years. And keep revisiting it. And by the way, when you love your life and you love your career and everything's going perfect, there's still days where you're like, F this whole thing. You still have days where like, today is a sell day. Today's I want to keep
sell day. Yeah.
I want to keep this. Today's the day where I want to keep this for 100 more years. Today's an absolute, all it takes is a grumpy, a sour grapes employee or a failed associate or a threat of a lawsuit from a patient. And you're like, screw this whole thing. Just remember,
burn it down.
Don't burn the whole thing down. Just never make a long-term decision on an emotional state.
There you go.
So no matter what, you're always going to have days where you're like, F this whole thing. But then they go, and then you have to take inventory. Is it one day of 50 days that I feel like screw the whole thing? Or is it 50 days of 50 that I say screw the whole thing?
Then and I will make this too, Call. And I think you're probably better suited than I am, but like, if you're listening to this and you're desperate, reach out to us, Sure, we're not here trying to enroll you in anything or come to the summit, but like, honestly, seek someone who can understand and empathize with your position in life. And we have people all the time who've reached out, and it's like, some are darker than others, right? Meaning, if you guys didn't help me, I wouldn't be here, kind of thing.
Right. But it's so hard though, Pete, to get those people to make the move. I'm calling on my boy Elon Gamberg, Andy Moreau from Appa Aesthetic. She's the one who said to Elon, you need to go to Bulletproof. And Elon was hemming and hawing with me on the phone. I'm going to tell it like it was. He's like, dude, I got 20 people. You know how much this is going to cost me? And I had to like full press sell him and tell him,
I do remember that actually.
If it was $100,000, Elon, it's worth it. And now Elon, 4 times masterminded, the best money I ever spent. I don't even care. This has changed my life. But I had to work my ass off to enroll him. And then when someone's working that hard to enroll you, like the way we're pleading people to come to Summit, you're like, no, screw this. Like, why do I need to be sold? It's like almost like, but I've seen it. We've seen it so many times that if you're in a rough spot, this is the answer. This is the right crew to be in.
I would agree. All right, let's wrap on that. We'll wrap on that. This the call to action for people. Get
reach out to me. I'll take a call for sure.
Us. Come. Yeah. Just don't go it alone. Don't go it alone. Don't think that there's no options, because as we kind of just because we laid out, there are a multitude of options. It's just sometimes
infinite options and hybridization of all the things we just talked about. And it can change over time. So you could have a career like Peter's and I, where we were clinical all the way through our 40s. And then one day it's like, okay, time to shift gears, time to mentor. And there's a podcast that I talk about a lot. It's the Arthur Miller Strength to Strength. Do I have that right, Peter?
Yeah, the one that was on the Oprah thing.
Yeah, so just Google that.
That's more for the second phase of your life, I thought.
Right, but for those of us that are in our 40s, even if you love your life, there's something that is very adaptive for your fulfillment. Your brain changes. You go from the doer to the teacher. And there's a way to monetize teaching like you can't even imagine. You don't have to take the L and go teach at your local university where they don't even pay you enough to cover your parking. You can teach an associate in your practice and monetize it. Yeah. So if you teach at the school, I'm not throwing shade, it's great. You're giving fulfillment. You're gaining fulfillment. You're helping someone along the line. But if you teach someone under your ecosystem, you get to monetize it, and then you groom a partner. Even better. Like, what an amazing thought. No one teaches us that.
That's a whole different topic. I think this dental porn lecture circuit, like, get romantic about, oh, I'm a lecturer, and then meanwhile, like, you have this missed opportunity inside your own practice. I'm like, God, you're
yeah.
just
look at our friends up in Jupiter, without naming names. They've traveled the world teaching other people, but they don't have anybody in their office. So if one of them gets hurt or injured, they have an existential threat to their business. You know, there are educators out there that have taught thousands of dentists, and they haven't even taught someone in their own ecosystem to take over and to help them. That's actually a greater loss, is to be paid to teach people and not teach the people that can actually help grow your company. You know, you're exporting your IP. It's like having Chinese students come to America and work at these great institutions, and then taking the technology and building it for China. You know what I mean? Like, it's the worst part. It's the worst thing that you could possibly do. Anyway, that's my thought. But I just think that there's enough cadence of calls in my life where people are ashamed and feeling guilty about wanting to really tell you what they want to do. And I'm imploring you, it's your life. You don't want to burn your life up chasing someone else's dream or doing something that you realize is not right for you. And it's okay. We've all transitioned in our career. And there's many iterations of transitions. There'll be many if you're doing it right. You should actually change a lot, in my opinion. You grow, you change. Life changes.
Well said.
It might and just one more thing, Peter.
Yeah.
It might even be, because I'm just thinking of different things. It might even be, I love my life, but I don't want to live in Cincinnati anymore. I always wanted to live in Acme, California. I always wanted to live in the mountains.
That's the one ticket poster I have on my wall.
Look at Andrew Turchin, you know, my buddy who practices in Aspen. He was in New York City gunning, working for all the big shots, worked for this guy and that guy, and said, you know what, wouldn't it be cool if I could live in Aspen? Well, guess what? As a dentist, everyone has freaking teeth. Pick a spot on anywhere, I would say, in the globe as an American trained dentist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
stay in the U.S. if I were you.
I'm sorry?
I'd stay in the U.S. if I were you.
Right, I know, but I'm just saying, let's just say you're an Italian American and your father was from Amalfi, and you want to go back to.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean,
Amalfi.
You have,
okay. Sure.
I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, you have the world will reward you with or welcome you with open arms as a U.S. trained dentist
because of the specific knowledge. You're
right. Wonderful.
So, Craig, can you make? Have you inked the deal for the famous DJ?
Oh yeah, I have.
No,
we haven't inked it, but we broke bread. We broke bread and we shook on it. So yes, the guy who does all of Tony Robbins' events. If you've been to a Tony Robbins event, you know the energy's through the roof. It's 15 years of Tony Robbins events.
Wow.
He's doing our event August 8th and 9th at the beautiful Ritz-Carlton in Orlando, Florida. Some say the finest hotel in the world, by the way.
Who says this?
People say that. It's widely known as it's the same people that have told me we're the #1 podcast in the world.
Okay. Well, then those people know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Everybody go check it out. Again, robust landing page with tons of information about course selection, speaker stuff for your team. It's very, very robust. Very robust. I got the feedback was like, hey, there's not enough information. What are we going to learn? I was like, shit. Okay, you're right. So it's all there for the taking now. So check it out, bulletproofsummit.com. And I'm fired up, bud. It's about 3.5 months away, roughly?
Yeah, I think it's 5 months away.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good talk.
No, 4 months. You're right, 4 months. I don't do math well. That's where the learning disability comes in. Yeah.
All right, bud. Good topic.
August is 4.
We will see you guys on the next one. Over and out. Watch this, Craig.
Oh, wow. That's so awesome.
All right, guys. It's
so good. Wait till we get a cease and desist from Taylor Swift now.
That's not Taylor Swift.
Whatever. Right, don't correct me in public. No one would have even known that.
All right, bye.
Okay, see you, bud.